On a national level, Democrats typically get 90% of the black vote. Al Gore got 92% in 2000. John Kerry got 88% in 2004. But why? Why do African Americans predominantly vote Democratic? Southern states gained additional seats in the House of Representatives and Electoral College after the Civil War because freed slaves were granted full citizenship and suffrage. Southern whites were still upset with Republicans for Reconstruction, and through intimidation and violence, paramilitary groups such as Red Shirts and the White League, which supported the Democratic Party, were successful at suppressing the black vote. In 1880, legislation started being passed to complicate the voting process and further disenfranchise blacks and poor whites. The legislation called for provisions that required poll tax and literacy tests. With blacks unable to vote, that left the Republicans unable to compete, and the South became solid white Democrats. Solid white Democrats controlled the chairmanships of congressional committees. Blacks were not voters, meaning that they could not serve in local offices, resulting in the chronic underfunding of programs. After the Civil War, blacks mostly voted Republican because Lincoln was a Republican and the white segregationists that governed the states were Democrats. The Democrats did not welcome blacks in any official capacity until 1924. After Truman desegregated the Army in 1948, a group of Southern Democrats split from the party due to the inclusion of civil rights into the party's platform. The disaffected Democrats, now called the Dixiecrats, formed States' Right Democrats, or the Dixiecrat Party, and nominated Strom Thurmond for president. The main point of states' right democracy was maintaining segregation and Jim Crow in the South. Failing to win the 48 election, the Dixiecrats dissolved. Thurmond was one of the first conservative Democrats to switch to the Republican Party. In the Second Great Migration from 1940 to 1970, more than 5 million African Americans migrated from the South to the North and the West, which had a significant effect on the makeup of the South. Changes in industry, military, and university attracted Northerners, South, and gave the Republican Party a boost. The Deep South were still loyal Democrats who had yet to repudiate segregation. 1963 was the year of Birmingham, marches and demonstrations to end legal segregation. The same year, the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church, where 4 little girls were killed, overshadowed the party's achievements. When Democratic Governor George Wallace was elected governor of Alabama, he linked states' rights and segregation in his speeches and actions. He worked with the KKK to prevent court-ordered integrations of public schools. In the 1964 presidential campaign of Republican Senator Barry Goldwater, he ran on a conservative platform that opposed strong action by the federal government. A previous supporter of civil rights legislation, Goldwater opposed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Based on the view that the act was an intrusion of federal government into the affairs of states and the fact that it prevented a private person to do business or not with whoever they choose, even if the choice is based on racial discrimination. White Southern Democrats agreed, and Goldwater was the first Republican to win electoral votes in the Deep South. Everywhere outside the South, with the exception of his home state, Arizona, he lost every other state. His vote on the Civil Rights Act proved to be devastating to his campaign. Johnson received 94% of the black vote, which is still a record for any election. More Republicans supported the Civil Rights Act of 1964 than did Democrats. This marks the turning point in history. This is the beginning of the Republican Party slowly turning into the Democratic Party. As was the case with all other civil rights legislation, Southern Democrats opposed Northerners due to civil rights issues. The election after the 1964 Civil Rights Act was referred to as the Great Betrayal. Blacks did not return to the Republican fold, and no Republican has received more than 15% of the black vote since. Southern strategy. The Republican Party's strategy to win elections or gain political support by appealing to racism against African Americans. First adapted by Southern states and Nixon and Barry Goldwater in the 60s, it was contributed to the electoral realignment with the Southern states to the Republican Party, though it cost the Republican Party the black vote. How could this tactic work when Southern states have the highest percentage of African Americans in the country? Disenfranchised black males account for 35% of all Americans now barred from voting because of felony convictions. 9 states impose a lifetime voting ban on convicted felonies: Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Virginia, Iowa, Kentucky, Nevada, New Mexico, and Wyoming. 28.5% of black males will likely serve time in a state or federal prison for a felony conviction, a rate that is 7 times higher than that for white males. This seems reminiscent of poll tax and literacy tests. Of the top 10 states with the highest percentage of disenfranchised voters, 7 are Southern. In 2010, an estimated 5.85 million people in the U.S. of voting age could not vote due to felony convictions. In conclusion, the Democratic Party was the party of slavery, secession, segregation, and the KKK because it used to be the Republican Party.